you, Linda. Welcome, everybody. I'm Christy here at my Artful Adventures, and today we are in an event. It's called Let It Flow, a watercolor gathering. And Lisa Boone is our hostess today, and everyone that has, all of our creators are being shared into the Crafty Bunch venue, a free group on Facebook. So it's a great place to go and be able to watch everybody, and all you have to do is just to refresh your browser in between people, and you'll be able to watch everyone. So this has been a lot of fun. So if you haven't got a chance to see everybody, go back and watch the replays, because there they are. They're handy right there. Yes, here I am. Thank you, Linda. When I do my little my cute little countdown thing, I noticed one day I didn't have my sound muted, and my husband is yelling something at me from the other room, and I'm answering, and I'm like thinking, okay, I didn't really think about that, because usually I'm just sitting here by myself getting ready. But gosh, and I don't know how much I blabbed before. Okay, a lot of us are paper crafters, but there's so many things that you can do with watercolor techniques for paper crafting, because so many of our products are water-based products, and so it gives us a chance to do all kinds of fun techniques and do different things with water. And so I hope that you will go back and watch some of the people and get some fun ideas. I'm going to put you down here to the desktop. We're going to do a couple of things. I'm going to do a couple things first, and then I want to do some easy little watercolor houses, okay? And so let's go down. Let's get down here to the desktop. You guys, coffee filters. We see coffee filters all the time. It's one of the things that people are doing, coffee and tea dye techniques. And, coffee filters are made to be able to withstand water, right? We can use a lot of water on them. And so I thought, this would be kind of fun to just play around with some waters on here. So first, when you're going to use watercolors, you want to spritz them a little and kind of wake them up. And, I just laugh about that, because I think how often when I was growing up, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that's what you were supposed to do. So how many of us for years just didn't have anybody to tell us that, and you just start with your dry watercolors, right? Hi, Missy. Hi, Sue. How are you guys? So what we're going to do is I'm just going to also dampen my paper, and I think I'm just going to use, I'll use a lot of water on it, because I want the color to really move on here. I could have just started with the whole thing just soaking wet for what I want to do and try it out. And I love making little pockets with a coffee filter. I think it's just fun. And you just fold them up, and you fold them a couple of times, and then you have to cut them, though, to kind of get the back to fold over the front. But I've just got a paper towel down here so everything doesn't get soggy. And probably when I'm done with this, I bet the color will perhaps seep through onto my paper towel. And then guess what? I can dry my paper towel, and I've got something else with some color on it, right? But anything with color, and just slapping some color on stuff is a great way if you're just stuck and you're trying to think of something to do, and you just don't have an idea of what you want to do. I think that doing backgrounds and things like that for just, getting some color down, I think it's a great way to, just play with color and feel like you did something. You got something done, right? Now, one of the things that I like to do is I like to take 3 colors that are kind of that triad of color. This is what I was telling Lisa. She had some that a friend had made, somebody that she knew had made these, and I was saying, I got these at the Pinners Conference this last fall, and the young woman who makes them, this was her business, Brighter Day Pigments. And she makes these little sets. I think she called this one Landscape. I don't remember. But some of them are kind of sparkly. Let me see if you can see the swatches. I don't know if you can see some of them. See, yeah, the turquoise and the the French turquoise and the turquoise mica, the ocean mica. There's several of them that have just enough sparkle to them that I think that would be super fun to use. Okay, now let's get some of this. And what I want to do, what I was going to say was, if you get kind of that triad of colors, if you think of the color wheel, and you get 3 colors that if they are going to be next to each other, they're not going to make muddy messes on your stuff. They will actually blend together. And so that's what I'm going to do today. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use kind of the primary colors. I'm going to use this red and this yellow. And then I think I actually might use the turquoise here. It's a little bit brighter than this other blue. But anyway, I'm just going to put down some color on here and let it just in several places. And I don't know if that's got enough water in it to spread like I was hoping. We'll see. I might have to put some more in. I'm just going to put some of that around. I might spray it in a minute. That might work good too. I'll clean that off a little bit. And I get some yellow. And the point is, I mean, I really want them to be able to touch and mingle. We want some of them to mix and mingle here. Because when they do, we're going to get some of those secondary colors, and they're going to be gorgeous. Because any of these 3 colors that we use, when they touch, you know, they'll make that that secondary color. Because red and yellow make orange, and then blue and yellow will make green. Maybe I'll go ahead and use this brighter blue. It's starting to look a little bit darker in here. And then the blue and the red will make purple. And so you can really kind of get some great colors going here. I just don't know, my goodness. They really, that coffee filter is just soaking that water up, and they're not really going much anywhere, are they? But, you know, that's why I wanted to play around and see what it does. I didn't want it to look like we just had polka dots on here. Honestly. That's kind of a surprise. I would have thought it would have gone out further. But like I said, we can put more water on. Look how vibrant that red is though. And so, you know, when you're doing something like this, you could do this on watercolor paper. Let's go ahead and try and spritz it now and see if we can't get it to move a little bit more. I'm going to really wet it. See if it won't move. Yeah, that coffee filter is just soaking that up. Isn't that crazy? It is just not, it's just not moving. Hi, Estella, how are you? It's just gonna sit there, you guys. That kind of makes me sad. Yeah, this is just not gonna go anywhere. Let's do this on a piece of watercolor paper. And look at what a mess I've made underneath. Well, now what am I going to do with this? And there she's got a mess to deal with. Goodness gracious. Wonder if I just folded it all up, I wonder what it would do, you guys. Wouldn't that be funny? Okay. Yeah, that just sat there. I'm really kind of surprised. Let's do just a tiny bit here in this journal. And I'm just gonna put some water down here and soak it good. Let it be able to move right away when we put down some color. Okay, let's see if we can get it to work this time. Let's try it. So, and I think this time I'm going to try something a little bit more, not that bright red. think I'll use this other softer, this one that says red mica. Let's use some softer colors on this. See, look at that. See how that's moving? Because it's moving with that water. Look, that's pretty. Okay. And then let's use, let's see, let's try, well, this yellow is kind of bright, but let's try it. Boy, they're just not moving, you guys. What in the world paper have I used before that stuff just really moved? And this should mix a little bit and give you kind of an orange color in there. Looks like I'm going to have to mix it on my paper myself, right? Who would have thunk it? And then let's try this other blue here. We've got some kind of softer colors. Ooh, that's kind of got a lot of gray to it. I was not expecting that to look like that on that paper. But you can see by doing this, you really get a soft look, and you could cut these apart. You could use them for tags. Oh my goodness, Nicole. Did you guys see Nicole, what she was doing with her, I'm going to put a little bit more of this in here. She had used some colors for a watercolor background, and then she went ahead and cut them apart for some tag backs. And I thought that's kind of fun. You know, honestly, I have no idea what kind of paper that I have used for doing stuff like this before, that it moved so much better than today. Anywho, you never know, right? Let's put a little bit more blue. Or blue. Yellow. Oh my goodness. Okay, now that's starting to look nasty and muddy over there. But when they go together, I am just really shocked, because I would have thought they would have... See, now you're getting some of that orange. That's mixing there. This should become some kind of a green color. That's kind of a muddy green, actually. That's not what I would have thought. But, you know, it's just fun to play around, right? Oh, Nicole, I'm glad you had fun doing that. It was really fun. Hi, Diane. Pat, is the paper towel absorbing? Let's check that paper towel out. You're right about that. Let's check it out. The paper towel might turn out better than the other thing. Look at that. Here's the one that was under it. Yeah, look at that. It just stayed. It stayed on that coffee filter pretty much right where we put it. Well, and so did the paper towel has too. I wonder if it'd move if we sprayed it more. But you know, that's the thing. You just play around with your products until you figure out things that they work. Now, this is getting a little bit of, see this orange over here? This is turning orange. That's pretty. And this has got a little bit of a green color. Oh, here, we're finally getting some purple over here. Where the yellow and, why is that purple? Yellow and red. Oh, there was a tiny bit of blue. I'm like, yellow and red do not make purple. There was a tiny spot of blue, and look what a pretty purple it's turning into over there. So, you know, I mean, it's finally kind of coming together like I'd hoped that some of it would. But, yeah, and you never know until you play around. And, I mean, when this dries, I mean, I wouldn't throw it away. I mean, because it was fun watching Nicole, and when she cut some of her stuff apart, you would never notice what it had looked like to start with. This one is even a lighter. Look how pale this one is. That would be... that'll be interesting to see how that dries, because a lot of the darkness right now is just because it's wet. So you just never know. Yes, this one. Are you talking about this, Susan? It is. It's looking more Eastery, isn't it? Looks kind of like Easter eggs. Yes, Linda. I know, I agree. I agree, you guys. All right. Let's move on. So that was a couple of things I thought would be fun to play around with, some water and watercolor. So now Now I want to do some little houses, and I considered doing, just drawing some, and you can draw fun little wonky houses. You know, that's the thing. If you say they're wonky, it doesn't matter what they look like, right? Doesn't matter if they have not straight lines or whatever. You can make them however you want to. But I've shown you some of these stamps before from Art Impressions, and I thought, oh, I should get some of those out and work on them again. That would be kind of fun. So this is just some Canson watercolor paper. It's 140 pound. And you know what? I'm just going to leave it on here, I think. No, I should probably take one off. I'll take a page off. And I'm not going to cut it or anything. I'm not sure how big my little things are going to be. So I'm just going to leave it like this. I don't know. Maybe I will tape it down here. I think I've got some tape. I'll just put a little tape down on the edge and keep it from moving around everywhere. Just a tiny bit. I don't even know what this says on it. So we'll just put, oh, I thought after I did that I should look and see if I got it in the frame, right? That's always good to make sure that you guys can see. If I'm going to come on and do a live, I might as well make sure people can see it. Okay. Let's see here. This will just kind of keep it down. It should help keep it from buckling up so much. Now, the one thing about this, when you're doing small pieces, like if you had them cut like as a card size for making a card or something, or even anything bigger, even if you wanted to do it bigger and frame it later, what happens is when you put these little edges around, when you put tape around the edges and you paint everywhere, and then you've got your painting, once you remove the edges, you've already got this instant border, which is really kind of a cool thing. Now, what I'm doing today, I'm not doing one simple little scene today. I just thought I'd play around and I would show you some more of these this technique. I think it is a lot of fun. But this is the company Art Impressions, and they're all unmounted stamps. They come like this. And I wanted to mention to you that when you're using a stamp like this, you've seen me use the little things that are like a little foam piece that we put underneath. And I've talked so many times about how that piece is important to get a good impression when you are stamping something. But a lot of times that's because the stamp itself did not have a cushion. Now, many of you might remember that when we used to have a lot of stamps that were on wooden blocks, they had like this cushiony thing. Well, when they started doing acrylic stamps and photopolymer, they don't have that. And so you need something that's cushioning, because when you have that little bit of give, that is partly what helps you get a good impression. So as you can see here, these have this little bit of foam right here. And so because of that, we don't need to, to have that extra step. Boy, I almost didn't get a block big enough. Yikes. Now, I have not stamped anything with this yet. Let me get a little stamp. I guess I am going to have another piece of paper, you guys. I'll have to have something to stamp it off on. I could use, I don't know. Oh, this is where we were talking about distress oxides and how they're so different. And this is another example. Distress oxide ink pads, when you add water to them, this is what they do. And that's kind of where the magic happens with them. And you can see how they start to, separate. and all these fun colors that you get with Distress Oxides. And it's just such a fun look. So, I mean, there again, that's another thing that you can do with, you know, water on water-soluble products, right? Okay, I'm going to put this down here. I'm just going to stamp a little because, and one of the things, if you have a stamp that you haven't used yet, if you like stamp it against your skin, you're kind of seasoning it. Hello, Liz. I was going to ask you how you're doing. I think I got lost with your situation. I hope you're doing good. Okay, so I'm just going to stamp this off. Okay. All right, that's not bad for a first time for a stamp. Now, and this is archival ink, and this kind of ink is permanent and waterproof, and I'm thinking that this is the one that you can also use with alcohol markers too. Do not quote me on that. I would have to check that out because that might be totally wrong. But here's the deal. If you take one of these, if you put two, oh, there went that. I'm going to use this dark brown, and I like to use Tombow markers, and I've got a bunch over here, but if you will take, oh, I do need that back. Oh, my arms almost aren't long enough. It flew so far under there. This is what we want to do. We want to color this twice. We're going to put on, and now I don't remember which one's supposed to go on first. You want to put this dark blue on here, and then we're going to put this brown one on over the top of it. We're going to combine them, and it gives us a much richer, more natural look than just like putting on black or gray or anything like that. Okay, so we've got one. Let's do the other one. I mean, just right on top of it, and that seems so odd, but it really is kind of genius. So I'm just going to put this on here, rub it across, and now I want to stamp it off at least once because we just don't need all of it. And I think I'll try to work, well, let's just work kind of right here. And there's our little house. And so now what we want to do is we want to start, oh, let me put you down closer, you guys. Sorry. Oh, okay, Liz. Next Monday. Okay. Alrighty. Thanks for letting me know. Let me see here. What was I doing? Oh, I was going to put us down closer. There you go. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take one of my brushes and I just want to start to pull the color out from the edges. Hey, Celeste, how are you? Our house is a very, very fine house. Yes, it is. I might actually use a little flat brush for this one. Oh, that has something on it, dirty. Oh, I know what it is. I think that was ink. I think that was some of that ink. Okay, so it's wet. I don't want it soggy wet. And I just want to go along the lines. And if they're like on the outer edge, I'm just going to kind of pull them in. Oh, this is really difficult since I made it to where I can't turn it, you guys. That might not have been the best idea. And so you can kind of get a little bit of shading, and that's like coming apart at the edge. You can kind of get a little bit of shading. I wish I would have picked something bigger than this. This is so hard for you guys to see. And that's as close as I can get with that. So you just kind of go along the edges, and where it would be kind of a shadow or a dark, that's where you're going to pull it out. Like that would be underneath the eaves, and you just kind of pull down a little bit. You just drag the color out a little bit. Everywhere it would have like kind of a shadow. I'm starting to wonder if there's enough of that black on there from when I stamped it once that it left me with some black. That would not be fun. So then, like, you know, you'd have a little bit of color at the bottom of the window, the bottom of the little ledge, or little window boxes, or whatever you would call them. A little bit would be under here. And you just kind of start doing little, and this is so tiny. Good grief, you guys. And then I want to move it so I can work on it. But as you start to drag some of that color out, you start to get some dimension before you do anything else. So it's really kind of a cool thing to do. You don't even have to do anything else. My goodness. I just can't believe how tiny this is. And you know what? I picked this one because there was another one that seemed smaller. I'm like, oh, I don't want that one. That's too small. Thank goodness. Thank goodness I didn't do that one. And then you might have a little bit of shadow, like at the back side of here. Might have a little bit of shadow. You'd almost have shadow on both sides of this. You'd have some dimension back here. And then this would stick out towards you, so you'd want a little shadow there. Okay. All right. And I'm just going to run this along here. And then we'd have other things. Okay, so now we want to put some color in. So see how we've got a little bit of depth on the edges here without doing anything else except pulling out the color? Oh my goodness, that is so tiny. All right, let's see what else we've got. We want to do something that could be some bushes and trees. And I've got these tiny things here. This actually could be like a nice size for bushes around the house, but you know what? Let's go ahead and paint our house, or color it in anyway. I don't know what color to do it. What color shall we use? Shall we make a little purple house? How about a little pink and purple house today? Just a tiny little pink and purple house. And so what you do is, if you're going to use markers, because again, they're water-based, and so all we have to do is put a little bit on here. That's a terrible sound. Pink and purple. This is gonna be a wild looking house, isn't it? And let's see, let's get a little bit of brown for the door. Maybe some of that wood stuff on the outside. What else shall we put on? I don't know. Let's get going with that. Well, it's half an hour. We've been on half an hour already. Well, we could do that. You know what? Let's do a little bit of the roof brown too. We'll kind of work down. And so you just take this, and you don't want it too soppy wet. I think I got that too wet. So you mostly just get that in there, and then you're just putting a little bit on here. And it just doesn't take much at all. And then we're just going to put this on. And then you can always come back and add more. And the fun thing about this is you can do whatever kind of colors that you want, right? You can just make your little houses. But look how easy that is. I mean, you don't have to do the drawing. You don't have to do anything. Although, if you were going to draw some funny little lined houses, that would be kind of fun. And then, remember we talked about you'd probably have darker back here. And a lot of times you want to make sure that, which I didn't, leave some white so that it will make some natural highlights. And I didn't even do that on here. But, you know, I mean, if you haven't filled it all in, you've still got lighter spaces in here, all right? Okay. And then we could put some way darker brown up there at the top if we wanted. Could be really dark along here because that would be a shadow. And you could just even kind of put some little, like maybe that's a stone fireplace up there. We'll just kind of dab some darker spots. Oh, this is so tiny it's hard to do any dabbing. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. That's really pink, you guys. Woo! That is like a lipstick pink. Super pink. And you know, that's kind of the fun thing though about watercolor is you just lay it down and you get different levels of, you know, lights and darks, and that's what makes it so pretty. I think anyway. And you just get a little bit of water. Just swirl it around over there. You guys, I have not done any of this in so long, and now I feel like it. Now I feel like I haven't done any in a long time. But I really like this. And you know what? Don't ever feel like if you haven't... Hi, Jeanette. Thanks, Lori. Don't ever feel like just because you didn't draw something or you didn't start it out, don't feel like it's not yours. You know, you're spending the time to do it. And this is why people make these things for us, is so that we can enjoy having some creative time. We don't have to feel like we have to do everything from scratch. This is really messy looking, you guys. Talk about wonky. I didn't even have to draw wonky places. This is going to be wonky on its own. That one side over there really... Well, maybe we got a really heavy shadow over there. Who knows, right? For some reason, that corner really is getting some shading. And, you know, you could come back in and kind of give a little bit of definition under here, even with this other color, the pink color. Because it would be a little bit, you know, darker if that was extending over the edge. And then let's get our little door. And we could do the trim too. Got our wooden door here. It's not very dark. But you could, if you wanted to, you could take your... I'll tell you what works really good is there's, if you take some markers that have tiny, tiny little points. Now these, like Tombow markers, do have a small edge, and you can do, you can do a tiny bit of like line work in here if you wanted to. But they also have another kind of even smaller marker Hang on, let me see. I think those are back here. Hang on a second. I'll tell you what they are. Because they work super great with these. Nope. They left their area. They were supposed to be in there with the other things. They have moved somewhere. So, but anyway, they have teeny tiny little nibs on them. And so you can do really, you know, so much more intricate work. Let's use a little bit of purple. I'm just going to do, some purple around the door. This is going to be some kind of a candy house. Maybe, who knows? Oh my goodness, this is hard, you guys. You've never been able to do a watercolor that I've been happy with. For some reason, your colors don't flow like they think you should. Oh, Celeste, you should have been here to start with. Yeah, I had some of that same problem with what I was working on. We were talking about trying it out on some watercolor paper to see how that would move. And it wasn't too bad. And the other one we did was a coffee filter. And the coffee filter just absorbed the water. And this did not blend the way I expected it to either. See, now I like this in here. It did have, you know, a chance to kind of mix and mingle up here. You know, I wonder if I put more water on it. I wonder if it would go out a little bit. Let's do that, you guys. Let's spray it and see if see what it does. Okay, we'll come back to this. Before we're done, we'll come back and see if it has done any more mixing and mingling. I think it is starting to, actually. That would be cool. So I just wet it down some more. Yeah, see, it's like soppy down here. So we'll come back to that and see how that's working out. I got to leave this kind of flat. Actually, let me... that has got a puddle. Hang on. I just wanted it to mix and mingle, not get flooded. So I just took a paper towel and kind of blotted it a little bit. And you can kind of put that around and pat it down. Add some color to that other area. Okay. Now we'll come back before we're done and see. I'm last tonight, so that's where we are with that. Okay, let's use a little bit of some green and make some ground. Now this, let me see. Let's use a little bit of blue kind of for the windows. Or, gosh, I wish I knew where those other tiny markers went, because you can, you know, you can make window panes in here even though you're not you know, doing a lot of other detail work. There's still fun stuff you can do. Oh, that's the big brush. Oh, and I don't want those sitting in that water. Don't leave your brushes, you guys, sitting in the water. It's not good for them. Okay, I wanted to get a little bit more work around the trim. So let's put a little more trim on. And you know what? These are so tiny that this would have also been a good thing to use with those other tiny nibbed markers. I'm going to try and straighten this out a little bit. I don't know who's living in this one. So when it is soppy, am I supposed to wipe it down or just let the sop dry? Well, it probably kind of just depends. Like this one, it was so wet and had such a puddle that I didn't think it, when I set it over here to the side of me, I didn't think that the water was going to stay on the page. So at that point, yes, I sopped it up a little bit. Even artists paint things they see. Another form of coping. Yes, that's true, Linda, right? Yeah, you guys, you know, right. There's just like nothing new under the sun, basically. I mean, you know, we're all doing to keep Linda, that is a great idea. I have too much water over here. I filled that jar up and brought it from the kitchen, and I had a lid on it because I thought this is way more water than I want, you know, in here in the first place. But a lot of times I keep just a tiny, you know, bit, but a lot of times you don't need to, you know, and I think we grow up as children, and if you've never been around anybody, an artist doing anything, we all think that we need to change our brush, clean it off from one thing to another. And some of the best things I've ever seen somebody do, like in person, is they really don't do that. They don't really wipe their brushes completely clean every time they dip into something, and they have the most beautiful paintings, and they can get through their stuff so much faster than those of us who, you know, we're always doing a little bit of this and cleaning it off and then getting the new color, just like you've seen me do tonight, because I'm just used to doing that. And I wish I wasn't. I wish that I would not do that. But you know, you just get used to that kind of stuff, and you know, you forget you're going to try to do better, right? Now, I'm going to put a little bit of green on here. This is kind of dark green, and I want one that's a little, I don't know how these are going to look on there. Let's see how this one is. Well, that doesn't really look like landscape material, does it? Well, these two greens wouldn't be bad. Let's kind of use those. And so I'm going to put some, actually I think I'll put some brown down on the bottom for some ground. Let's do that. And just put it kind of around the house. And just, we've got some to put down. And so you can, you know, you can take your marker that you smeared out here, and then just, you know, get some ground going out here. And then I'm going to put some green on here too. And I don't know which is which. Hi, Becky. How are you? Don't wet the metal piece. Yes, that's where people really run into trouble, is when they keep this, I can't even think what you call it. There's a name for it. There's a name for everything, right? Did you say I'm using, yes, Tombow markers. And the reason, Celeste, is they really are juicy. And so to start with, you can lay down some color, and they really, it's easy to use them for a technique like this. And even if you're using them for other things, if you were to put, well, here, I'll show you. Let me just show you. If you take some color and you put it down here like this, and then you want to pull some of that color out, Tombows have enough pigment in them that you can, you know, wiggle it around and start to pull it out. And that's why it works really good for this kind of a technique. I mean, it has a lot of pigment. I mean, look at that. So you get this, and not all markers are created like that. I've had plenty of markers that there's no way that you could do this. And before, there was another, so the lady who is kind of like, they lovingly call her the queen bee, Bonnie Krebs, who is with Art Impressions. She has been doing this for a long, long time. She is basically their designer of all the fun little drawings and everything. And years ago, she was using another one, the Marvy. Well, it was that other one I started with. The Marvy La Plume 2s, and those were great too. And while I had some of these, and we used them like that, there was another lady I knew, and who she does all kinds of really bright and colorful things, and she was the one that said that Tombow markers for the things that we were doing in a class that I was in with her. She was the one that said Tombow markers, have such great pigment, and so I thought, oh, okay, so that's kind of like that. Well, now Bonnie in her business, she has gone to using Tombow markers, and I believe that she has a deal with them, because now she's got sets that she uses. She doesn't use a ton of markers. You don't have to have a ton of colors to make cute little scenes like this. You don't have to at all. But I feel like I'm an ad for someone. I don't. But it is interesting to find out that there are markers that have that much pigment and whatever makes them, probably water, to be able to use them in a manner like this, because like I said, not all of them do, and I've had some that didn't, and I thought, oh, I have a whole bunch of these markers, I'm going to use them like that. Well, I couldn't, because they didn't. Feral, thank you. I started to say that, and then I thought, no, that doesn't sound right. Thank you, Linda. So let's get some little, oh my gosh, did I already, oh, whew. I thought, did I already pull that one out? And then I don't know what I did with it. So now you can also just take these, and you can color right on them. And then stamp them around. And you want to stamp them like, several times. And I'll show you why. We need some more stuff down here. I need some grasses. Let's use a different, let's use this other green as well. And let's use, I know there's some little grasses in here. I don't think it's that one. This is such a tiny little scene. We don't need grass that's very big. The grass on this is going to probably look more like a bush. And that's okay. And you can just use these little pieces. There's several of the things that are kind of, they come in bits and pieces. And so a lot of these you can put together and make yourself little scenes. And you just have, it doesn't take very many to be able to, have a collection like that. Okay, so now what you do is now we're going to take our water on our brush, and we're just going to dot these on. Now you just dab and dot, and you just get enough water on here, and then it starts to just blend these out. And there's things that look like sticks that you could, these might not have been the best ones to do. You have like all this time to plan and think about what you're going to do. And then at the very last minute, you think, no, let me try something else. I don't know. I hope that you feel like, you know, you've gotten some value and some ideas maybe. And then you can even take this and, you know, pull your water up, and you're still using that same color. And you're just going to, you know, dab it out there. And then on these, sometimes you can actually just pull your little strokes up farther. It softens those and then makes them kind of longer, and, you know, just make them kind of, it's like accidentally intentional. So we've got a couple of greens going on here. We should have done a little, and we still can. Where's that brown? Let's use a little bit of our brown. And I mean, depending on how far you were doing, if you were doing a little card, this might be the edge of your card, right? So you're just going to take that down there, and maybe you could put some more little grasses along the little path or something, and we'll make some little flowers on here too. And we can just kind of tap the edge. Oops, that's the wrong edge. So that we've got some more stuff there. It's starting to look kind of funny with my... This was not a well-composed scene. It's like picking out your work clothes the night before work. Then when you get up, you're thinking, nah. Oh, I love that, Linda. Oh, I think that's a perfect example. So, you know, you would have had more down here, but you can just take these, need a little more water. So you're just dabbing that into that, just the tip. We just want the tip of our brush in the water. We don't want too much. And you're just softening that out. And sometimes you don't even need to do it, depending on, you know, where you've got your, where you've stamped and what you want it to look like. This looks like a hot mess. Oh my goodness, you guys. So, let's use some little, here's a little thing that's got some little flowers. Or actually, this is so tiny. These are tiny flowers, but our stuff is so tiny that we could actually use those tiny dots and it will look like little flowers. So let's use that one. And let's see. Let's use, oh, and I've got a good sky tip for you too. Hang on a second. But this is kind of key, is to stamp things more than once, because then you've got some depth to it. And we got flowers everywhere on this yard. Maybe they've got wild bluebonnets. I don't know about that. That is this time of year. It's time. The bluebonnets, I think, are growing. My husband and I was laughing. I said, well, we could go and do that. And I said, but that's not very fun for the driver, because a lot of times they're on the sides of the highway on, you know, like some hills, or just the side where it's kind of, you know, up in the air. Now, see, if you just leave them, you can't, it looks like they're in the distance, and it doesn't really matter if we add very much water to it or not. Do you see what I mean? But let me show you this. If you take a little bit, we didn't get any blue on here, did we? Let's put a little bit of blue. Let's see. No, I want to put that other blue. Let's try this blue. if you take a little bit of blue, that's a good one. You take that and you get that all nice and wet. Then when you make these tiny little compositions, you're like, well, what am I going to do in the background? You can put some sky. But you know what? You don't have to put sky everywhere. You can just give a little bit of a hint of sky. Like if this was your card, you wouldn't have to do the whole thing. Now, this is probably kind of rough and jagged for my sky. Skies aren't usually like that. But you can just, you know, lay some color down. I don't know. Some people can do the prettiest skies with some of this technique. You guys, I'm going to have to practice. I'm going to have more practice at this. I love doing it. I think it is so much fun. But that's the tip. You do not have to like completely fill something up to make sky. Have you ever been to? No, I've never been to Martha's Vineyard. They have those little colored Victorian houses. Oh, wouldn't that be fun? While you're stamping the stamps 3 times when using the markers, because it gives them some depth and dimension. And I'll show you again. What was I? Was I using blue? Let me show you, Martha. When you do it like this, if you just stamp it once, then it's like just kind of, it's there. But if you stamp it like about 3, and sometimes you can kind of go in a little circle. And I mean, you can stamp kind of even up to about 5 times. And then you can still use a tiny dab of water. And, you know, just kind of dab a dot. But it gives you dimension already without having to work too hard for it. And I'm sorry I can't get you down any farther than that. But now you've got some that looks, you know, darker, like it might be closer. You've got some that are, you know, back farther. And, you know, so it's just a fun technique, you guys. And, you know, you might have stamps that you could try this with. Try bigger ones. Try some bigger stamps to start with. You'll be happier. I wish I'd have pulled out one that was bigger. I would have been, but they're in full bloom. You saw some yesterday afternoon. Oh, Missy. Yeah, I kind of wish we'd have gone, but yeah, I just thought you know, I'm the one that always gets to see him, and I'm just like going, oh, there they are. You know, while he's driving down the highway, and I'm like, oh, that's not very fun for him. So he probably doesn't even care, right? That would be, but yeah, they are just beautiful. There they are. That's easier than masking. To do it like this, is that what you mean? To like stamp them several times? And I mean, that's like, and that was what we did down here too. And so we've got different levels of how dark the tree. See, we didn't even have to work that hard on doing this. We've got some lights and darks right here, and all we did was stamp it several times from the same, you know, inking of the stamp. And then down here, a lot of it, I didn't even put that much water on. But anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this. Oh, Diane says she's originally from Massachusetts, south of Boston, and lived in Cape Cod. Many summers they went to Martha's Vineyard. You know, there's lots of places around the country that have those fun colored homes like that. And I think in San Francisco, I think there is a street that's kind of known for that. You know, and up in the mountains in Colorado, there were little towns where they had some of those, you know, homes from the 1800s, and you know, they have all of this gingerbread work on them, and they're just so fun, and they would, you know, often paint those. And so I mean, they're like all over, they're dotted all over the country, you guys. So if you ever get a chance to see some of those fun bright colored homes painted like that, I hope you get to try that. Thank you, Lisa, for having us today. This was a fun and different event than what we normally do, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And I will talk to you later. Tomorrow we're having another event in the Crafty Bunch, so I hope you'll stop by then too. Thanks so much, you guys. Take care. Good night.